Just when you thought FNAF was not going to have any massive news until the anniversary, we just recently got the reveal of a new series of FNAF books, which were hinted at months ago. But now we have the cover, title, and description of Book 1, The Week Before, an interactive novel. And just from this, I am immensely excited of what this novel could bring to the series. Though, what is this book? What will it be about? And most importantly, will it be canon? Well, that's what this video will be about. So let's start setting the stage and find out exactly what to expect when this book releases this September. Alrighty, first things first. So what even is an interactive novel? Don't worry, I didn't know exactly what it meant either. However, from what I've researched, an interactive novel is basically a choose-your-own-adventure book. A way to make literature more like a game by incorporating choices into its storytelling. Every few pages of words, you get a choice which changes what the character does in the story. Some choices will lead to more pages that continue the story from that choice, while others could lead to a sudden ending. For example, say the first page of an interactive book says that there are two doors, one to the left and one to the right. The bottom of the page will tell you what page number to go to in order to make your choice. To use the left door, you go to page 4, or go to page 7 to go into the right door. This is an interesting choice for this set of novels, and this could show us stuff we never usually get the chance to see in previous books, like more details of the pizzeria, the animatronics, and maybe even some references that we wouldn't see otherwise. Sort of like what the upcoming Into the Pit game will do for the original Phasma Fright story of the same name. Now whether this new book series will give us key information for the lore or not, that's for later in the video. Though now that we know what it is, I think we should go into more detail of what The Week Before will actually be about, and to do that, we will have to look closely at the cover and analyze it to give a good idea what's going on. When looking at the cover, a few things stick out. Firstly, we have Freddy Fazbear himself on the cover. Now, why is this interesting? Doesn't Freddy appear on the book covers a lot? Well, that's just it actually. He doesn't. At least, not in the storybooks. The only storyline-based books that has the original Freddy Fazbear on it is the Silver Eyes and its graphic novel counterpart. The others use a plethora of different characters, usually giving the viewer a good idea of what the book entails. But what's also interesting is that this is a stylized version of Freddy Fazbear from FNAF 1, almost looking like a combination of FNAF Plus Freddy and the classic variant. You can tell this as his hat has a red ribbon above the brim, his jaw has top teeth now, and the endo underneath has sharp teeth of its own when it had normal square teeth before. Now, whenever unique designs like this are shown, a lot of people take it as evidence that the book isn't canon. However, please keep in mind what series we're talking about here. And in this case, I personally think that this is just an artist's own interpretation of classic Freddy, and I personally like it. Now the next eye-catching aspect of the cover is the title. The Week Before. The week before what exactly? Well, all we have to do is look at the description of the book, which goes like this. Return to where it all began in this interactive prequel to the very first Five Nights at Freddy's game. You, the reader, are the security guard, and you got 5 nights, or is it 6, to survive Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, and Foxy as they try to wipe you out. So, already we know this is a prequel to FNAF 1, and we are a security guard facing the same set of main 4 animatronics. Specifically, we know this story takes place, as the title implies, the week before. Now, who's a character that would have worked before Mike's week in FNAF 1?
I actually worked in that office before you. I'm finishing up my last week now, as a matter of fact.
Oh, that's right. This book is probably going to be about Phone Guy then, and specifically about his last week on the job before he's killed by the end of the week. Not only would this give us insight on Phone Guy, it's very possible that we could learn more about the FNAF 1 pizzeria, and the many mysteries that the original games left open for interpretation, like who killed Phone Guy, why are the heads in the back room seeming alive, and maybe could explain what "it's me" actually means. Now, why do I think we could explore this much in one book? Well, let's finish reading that description. With over 25 different possible endings and 2 difficulty settings, this one-of-a-kind interactive novel is a uniquely entertaining experience for any Freddy's fan. Over 25 different endings? That's quite a bit, even for the FNAF series. Now that is a lot of opportunities to show off lore we usually wouldn't see. Now, this is actually a pretty usual amount of endings for a choose-your-own-adventure book, but it's still quite a hefty amount, And since this is classified as an interactive novel, maybe it will have much longer reading sections than usual choose-your-own-adventure books. But one thing that I don't really know about is these difficulty settings. It's a weird thing that exists in this book, and from my research, it's not really a usual thing in interactive literature like this. The only thing I could find is difficulty settings on text-based computer games, so it beats me on what these settings actually mean. My best guess is that at one point fairly early on in the story, we will get an option to make the animatronics more aggressive to us. Maybe it could lead to an ending related to the pink slips you receive on custom nights as a nice nod and slight explanation. If it's not that, then oh well, maybe it'll lead to something more interesting. Though, with a general idea of the premise and what this book is, it's now time for the most controversial part of this video. Will this book be canon to the game's timeline? So before we go in, I will say I won't go into the full book canonicity debate here. There's a time and place, and for now I want to save it for a video at a later date. But for my standings, I personally believe Stitchline games and Tales games, as I believe the books are very helpful in understanding the world of Five Nights at Freddy's. Now with that out of the way, I personally think that this series will have a game continuity sequence of events that does canonically happen, with plenty of out-of-continuity paths that will lead into dead ends or bad endings. All of it would be canon, but there would be a correct path that you will have to take, but you would only know if you were in the game's continuity path if all the details shown in the games match with the story detailed in this book. As an example, this book is seemingly about Phone Guy. In this scenario then, the canon route of events would see him record his phone calls for Mike, and if you don't do so, then you are no longer following the game continuity. I hope that is simple to understand. Keep in mind that just like how we acknowledge the fact that Syslocation's fake ending has canon information, examples include the FNAF 4 house being real and the Fredbear plush being William on a walkie-talkie, that means any information these other endings have that are not in line with the game's timeline are canon as well. So if, for example, one ending reveals that Springtrap was a thing before FNAF 1 happens, meaning Follow Me and William's death by Springlock happens before FNAF 1, then it's canon and happens in the game's timeline. Use Syslocation's fake ending as a benchmark on how to interpret the different endings in this book. Now, besides all that lore talk, what do I personally hope for this series? Well, I really hope that this book really expands on Phone Guy, as it would be great to know a lot more about a character we've known since the first game that has sadly lost a lot of relevance over the years. And because of that, it makes me really excited for the series, as it could shed light on certain characters that didn't get much explanation in the games. Maybe the second book could give us information on Phone Dude, and tell us what happened to him. Maybe a book on Tape Girl. Heck, we could even get books about other specific events in the timeline, like the DCI, or as I like to call them, the Save the Massacre victims. We could get a book about Chica's Party World, maybe even the book about the Bite of 87. It's been a bit since we had a series with so much potential, and I personally hope that they use this series to give us more insight into the characters or events that we don't know as much about, though not any that are about major characters, as they deserve to be explored in the games themselves. Please. Though, what are your thoughts on this new book series? Do you think it will be canon? And what characters do you want this book series to explore? Tell me in the comments below, and make sure to share this video around as I worked really hard on it. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel as it means a lot to me. Though, if you're unsure yet, then click on the video to the left here to watch more. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you all in the next premiere.